And I remember the message I had sent you that one day. I'm like, hey, listen, like I will always keep you as a coach, even when I get my pro card. Like that to me is big for me, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like you got me to where you know what I'm saying, not only to where I wanted to be today, because there's obviously still much more to go.
What's up, guys? So I'm here with one of my competitors, Jeremiah. We've been working together for what, like almost close to what, 2 years now? Through 2.5?
So yeah.
2.5. Yeah. So I just want to ask you a few questions, see how you feel about like working with me in the service and everything. And I guess my first question is, what led you to hiring me as a coach in the first place? Because I know you had reached out to me once.
Yeah.
And then you disappeared for about a year and then you came back. So what solidified that decision for you to like come back and like, want to actually hire me?
It was honestly it was more of a football thing, you know. I was playing football before I started working with you and everything. And, you know, I just was taking football more serious, but I also wanted a different type of body because I wasn't happy with how I looked in a certain way. So that first time when I hit you up, I was like, oh, okay. And then I just forgot about it because I'm like, you know what, I could do that maybe whenever, you know,
Yeah.
because I was at the gym a lot. And then finally, when that decision came to my head of like, oh, like, you know what, like maybe I could take this a little bit more serious. I hired you basically because I saw not only the progress like within other people, but also what you have accomplished. So that kind of made me think to myself, oh, like, you know what, if he is able to do this to many people and on top of himself, then I want to be a part of that. You know, like I wanted to be like, I could get this, I could do this. So I'm gonna hire this guy. And I know, you know what I'm saying, we could work through it and everything. And I know there was ups and downs, but still led me to being like, yo, I know he got it like that. So that's what it was for me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And one thing I have to say is um all the people I worked with, I think you're probably the one person who's the most on top of everything. I never, apart from chasing you for a few check-ins here and there, I think when it came to actually doing the work, showing up, doing the workouts, doing the nutrition, doing the cardio, um, you and Massimo are probably at the top of that of like, never really deferring from the program unless it's like, okay, do this. And just like how athletes look for very specific coaches, I think coaches also look for very specific athletes. So for what you bring to the table as an athlete, like I honestly cannot ask for more. I think you are like the top of how an athlete should perform in terms of getting everything done, checking off the boxes, and just being a good representative for the team. You're always in high spirits, you're always positive, even on shit days, even in the low periods, like you said, where we had to work through a few injuries and everything. You've always stayed optimistic, you've always stayed positive, and you never, let anything kind of get you and kind of bring you down. Your vision has been super laser focused on your goals, and I think it's very, very important. Um, so I know when we first started, um, correct me if I'm wrong, but was competing always something that you initially wanted to do, or was it something that you kind of grew into as you started working together?
I think it was more the growing into part. I never like for me it was always like at first I found it kind of weird. I was like, why would I want to go on stage and show a bunch of people like, oh, like my body and everything? And that's why it was a little bit weird for me at first. I'm like, I don't really want to do that. So it was more of just for like looking healthier at first.
Uh-huh.
Then I started seeing a lot more online. I'm like, oh shoot, like wait, these people actually like do this professionally. I'm like, I could do that. I'm like, if I, you know what I'm saying? Like, as I said, going back on the football aspect, I did that for so many years and I wanted to make a name for myself. And I just, you know what I'm saying, stuff happened, you know, you hit a pedestal and you're done. So once that hit me in my head of like, I want to also compete competitively, that's when I started to take a little bit more serious. And I'm like, I have to do that, you know?
Yeah. And so we did our first show last, how long ago was it? 2 years ago, I think,
So
2024.
yeah,
And we did your first show. And out of a lineup of how many people, like 16 or something, 17 people, I don't remember, you came third. So, for one, how did you find the experience working with me through a prep? And two, How were your expectations coming out of that show? You know, a lot of people go in there and they're either expecting not to place or they're expecting to, wipe the floor clean. How do you feel about, what we accomplished in the first show?
As a first show, I was really just like testing the waters out, really trying to see like, hey, like what can I do versus other people? Like other people just put in the same amount of work as I do, but I've always believed in my head that I could put in more work than other people. So getting on stage that first time and placing third out of 17 people was a big accomplishment. It was like the startup for me. So even though I got third, it just I never left there with a negative attitude. I was leaving there with like, hey, listen, like I got third. This is my first ever show. Like, you know what? That just makes me want to work even harder for the next one. So I'm like, the coaching, even during that time, like there was a lot of like, oh, like we could have got a little bit more shredded. And there's sometimes that's on me. It's not really the coach because it's like, what am I doing? What am I missing that I
Yeah,
should have done a little bit more to get to how I wanted to look or how, what I'm saying, the picture was printed in the mind. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it was a coaching issue. I think it was more an error on my part where I could have done a little bit more, maybe take the cardio sometimes a little bit more serious, the workouts a little bit more
uh-huh.
intense. And that's how I would have thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't say it's a coaching error, but I would say it's a learning curve too, right? It's our first show that we work together. I need to learn your body. And I think we collected enough data and we know that for you, at least when you were natural, um, you needed a little bit more time to get shredded, maybe a little bit more cardio. I could have been a little bit more harsh on the diet with, respect to certain things. But I do think the execution was done pretty well. I just think it was more of a learning curve on both our ends. Your first show, my first time coaching you as an athlete. And I'd like to think that the package you brought in was pretty good. I would argue, personally, my opinion, not just because you're my client, think you should have placed, a little bit higher than third. But I mean, it is what it is. We'll take it. First show, just kind of jumped in, beat out, 15 guys is a pretty good showing. And yeah, that's pretty much my opinion on it. I think in terms of execution, you were good. I mean, you didn't even know you were allowed to have a cheat meal once a week. I remember it was like, what'd you have for a cheat meal? You're like, what cheat meal? You didn't have
That's
it for like, I don't even know how long you went without a cheat meal. I was like, God damn, this guy's good.
pretty crazy because honestly, like I cut out sugar 9 months before my show. So because I had cut out sugar, I thought to myself, well, I can't eat junk food. So I was telling every time my family would order some pizza, I'm like, nah, I can't eat that. It was probably on one of my cheat meal days and I just wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah,
So I guess it was could because I wanted to see like how I could transform my body and not have these other foods involved that I was able to cancel it out. And
for sure.
obviously we only had that cheat meal, I think, after the show. So
Yeah.
that felt like a bigger accomplishment for me at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. I mean, look, not many people could do that. That is it's not an easy thing to do to cut, junk food and sugars out that early. And just so you guys know, this wasn't something I requested him to do. He did this on his own. So like, kudos to that because a lot of people are going to try to milk and beg for cheat meals as much as they can. And I've had clients, messaging me multiple times a day begging for a cheat meal. And never once did he ask me for even like 10 grams of extra rice. Like he was really again, like I said, the ideal, the perfect athlete. Like you tell him what to do and it's done. I don't even need to ask him, be like, hey bro, how was your diet? Like I already know it's been followed, right? And this is gonna, really shine light on the second part of what I wanted to touch on. And that is how would you explain the progress you've made from the first show to now? So just to give you guys, watching this some context, when I first started with Jeremiah, we got you to what, like 3,400 calories, 3,500 calories at like, let's say 15% body fat. And that was like his off-season cruising weight. Fast forward to now. And keep in mind, guys, this is him doing everything properly from the reverse diet post show, taking the off-season seriously and doing everything he's supposed to. We were at 24 weeks out when we really started to kind of dial things in. So 24 weeks out being about a month ago, he had abs. He had separations in his quads. His back was pretty lean. and he was at 6,000 calories. So how would you describe the feeling of like where you were to where you are now and like just, soaking in like that transformation that we did, not just in terms of food, but in terms of like the physique and everything.
It was definitely a lot of food, a lot of things to follow. Uh, I guess it's just also being at over 6,000 calories. I'm like, hey, listen, well, a lot of moving. Also, the cardio, I guess, helped a lot, and also not adding in a lot of trash foods, like junk food and everything. Lots more water instead of juices. So I guess once I just triggered that in my head from the first show, I was like, hey, I could do it for the second one too. Like I don't want to be a person during the time of my bulk. I don't want to be flabby and look all, you know what I'm saying? It's just not a look that I ever want to put on again. Like that was me the first time around, and you saw it. Like I had no abs. I basically looked like I had like man boobs at that point.
Yeah.
Like no cuts, no nothing, just like body fat. So ever since getting shredded to now, still being able to stay shredded, that's just how I want to look all year round, even if it's not the big mass monster look. I'd rather still be at my weight with that amount of muscle, with that amount of striations in the muscles, and just keep it from there. So for me, it was a big accomplishment.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you owe that a lot to your discipline because a lot of people when they come off the show and they don't do the reverse diet, they kind of screw up their metabolism, their hormones and everything. They tend to get fat, flabby. You kept it tight all the way through. And I think that's also what's allowed you to kind of uh, allow us to bring up your metabolism to a point where we can feed you like astronomical amounts of foods and still keep those abs and keep you, more or less, let's call it like ripped, what the average person would consider, right? Uh, so now we're looking at diving into your first open show. And we got two shows lined up. So we got the provincials on May 9th, the FitLog Classic. And then we got the nationals, which is, I believe, in June, like 2 weeks or 4 weeks later, approximately. How do you feel going into these next round of shows? I know we've made some severe improvements in your physique. We've added a crap ton of muscle. You're going to come in 10 times more shredded than you were last year. And just overall, like now your eyes are set on that pro card. Like this is the goal for us. And I think, if we keep playing our cards right, it's something that is very, very doable in the near future. So what's your thought process going into these, next two shows that we got lined up?
Definitely the Shitlock one. Um, I feel like I just got to be as ready as I can be. Like I don't try to put it myself in a place where it's like I'm gonna smoke everybody. Try to go in as humble as I can, but also I'm there to showcase something to other people. Like for me in my mind, also I'm seeing like, hey, listen, like I worked all year for this. I'm not gonna let you take that away from me. So no matter who you are on stage next to me, beside me, or behind me, I'm not gonna let you have that moment. I'm gonna fight against you all show until you back down, and then we continue from there. So that'd be for the fit lock, and then the nationals literally a week later or a month later or so.
About, yeah.
That I'm gonna have to go in there with some serious work. I believe however we do at the fit log, if we got to make some adjustments, we'll make those adjustments and get ready for that nationals. Where pro card is definitely up there. So I mean, if we can smash those two shows out right away, I'll be good with that. And we just continue going from there.
Yeah, yeah, it's perfect. And just so you guys know, Jeremiah competes in classic physique in was it class C, I think,
Yeah,
which down here in Canada or down there in Canada, I should say, is the most competitive class. Like every show, there's usually I never seen class C have less than like 9 to 10 people. And especially in the open shows, there's a lot of guys. So extremely, extremely competitive class, but he has, and again, not just saying this because he's my client, but he has all the right parts, everything going for him. And I do think the pro card is on the table in the very near future, right? So if it's not this year in June, it will most likely be the next year. And overall, globally, how are you feeling about everything? I know it's been a big year. We took, a good amount of time off, almost a full year off to bulk up, add the quality size. with the introduction of products and stuff. How are you feeling?
I just said I felt great. Honestly, I work a lot and everything, so I mean, sometimes you feel a little bit tired, but I mean, it doesn't stop you from putting in as much work. But in terms of that, like, I feel great when I train. Feel pretty good when I wake up during the day. Energy's still up. Being on products obviously enhanced everything a lot more. Like my energy levels are probably like skyrocketing now. But I mean, feel great, honestly. Never trying to. That's another thing. Never try to go too far with it, and just trying to stay exactly where we had planned out everything. And that's also a big part in this whole process. Is I would say staying exactly where you want to be, so so that you're good all year round. So I feel
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that I wanted to kind of, talk about a little bit is I've worked with guys that would beg me for more, beg for more this, beg for more that, beg for more supplements because they think more is always better. And, the approach that we took together is a very modest approach. I would say we're not taking much. We're taking a few different things. And then obviously, as prep goes on, you introduce certain other compounds and stuff. But the approach that we took is very, let's call it centralized around health. We're on top of the blood work. Blood work comes back good, then we continue. If the blood work comes back bad, then we take a step back, clean up a little bit and see where we go from there. But I also, again, this is what one, quality that, I appreciate about Jeremiah is he's not an abuser. He respects what's given, never asks for more. When the cycle's written, he's never like, hey, what about adding this? What about adding that? What about it's never, can we take more? It's like, okay, perfect. This is what we're taking. Good. Less is more. And it showcases in his body and his results. So when you guys see him on stage, and if we ever do a second episode with this and we do kind of explain a little bit what the cycle was, you guys would be very, surprised as to how little he's taking compared to what most people are for him to get to where he is, right? For him to look how he looks. And a lot of people forget, or not forget, but they refuse to accept the fact that the cycle just kind of enhances already what you're doing. So he's got the good base of the training, he's got the nutrition dialed in. Um, he's active at work, he does his cardio, so his sleep is good, everything's good. So adding in a little bit is just going to enhance what he's already doing tenfold. Whereas someone who's doing 30% of all of the groundwork, but tries to compensate by taking 400% of the juice, the body's just not going to look the same, right? We do think that it's a result of having good fundamentals in place, and then this just kind of enhances everything. Um, so that, it's a little bit about that. And the end goal is the pro card now. So what kind of put this idea in your head of wanting to chase that pro card? I know when we first started, the pro card was never even like you didn't really give a shit about it, but now you're like, yo, I want that. So kind of what was that shift?
honestly, it was like I said, watching a lot of like bodybuilders and stuff now, like paying attention to kind of like how they went along with it, and there was a lot of work and just it's a lot of grit to it, and I'm like, you know what, like I want to be on that stage competing at the highest level versus the best guys in the world because I believe I can be there with them. Like I believe I can always, what I'm saying, do more and get there and just, what I'm saying, achieve another goal in my life. So that pro card being there would be obviously probably the best thing around. And being from Canada, like, I guess some people have their pro cards in Canada, but I want to be the one that gets their pro card and he's able to showcase it on the big stage one day. So
Sure,
I guess that's just the real side of me is just like, hey, like that Canadian kid, that young kid that just wants to be at the top, with
for
the
sure.
best. So that's what it really was for me, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And fuck, I forget. I had a question I was going to ask you for I just forgot. Um, yeah. Okay. So one thing that, we've made clear is you have a lot going on in your day, right? Between work, the gym, managing a relationship, everything. What's a piece of advice you could give people? Because you know as well as I do, everyone's got that I got no time excuse, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. So coming from someone who's doing a lot, what's, a piece of actionable advice that you can give to someone who's always loaded up with the excuses, saying they have no time because you, like me, we have a lot going on, but yet we still find the time to do this. Let's not even call it a sport. We still have the time to put the things that, or do the things that we need to do to take care of our health. So what would you say to someone who needs not necessarily my coaching services, but who needs to take their health more serious, where time is always an excuse? What would you tell them?
And honestly, I hate hearing that excuses. I hear it a lot actually, and not just not from bodybuilders itself, but just general and people in general. They always they know I don't got time, but I say to people, I'm like, listen, I work hours at work all the time. I'm almost there every single day. I still find time to hit the gym. I still find time to cook my meals and all this. There's always time. It's if you decide you want to make time. It's a big mental game for people. The whole aspect of I have no time, it's all in here. If you actually make that time and sit down and schedule out how you want, and not just your day to go, but your life to go, you will find time for these things. So that's just how I see it. See the future and not just the set day itself of why you don't. You know what I'm saying? I feel like people put a lot of negativity into their thoughts, like, oh, I don't know time, I can't do this, I can't do that. And then they stress themselves out. So I feel like creating that pathway and that schedule for yourself, at least sit down for one day or even 20 minutes and be like, hey, like I got to do this is that. How can I schedule it out correctly? You find out your work schedule that week. Okay, now I have this time. Let's plan this out. Okay, now I have this time. Let's go to the gym at this time because I only work at this time. Now let's do our meals. If you can make your meals at night on the weekend when you're not working for the week, you'll be completely fine. So it's all just like big mental game for people that you just have to get rid of.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah, I
work.
agree. It's just doing it. And I'm sure you've had those days where you just really didn't want to get up and go to the gym and do what you needed to do, especially in prep. And just so you guys know, like there will be days where you face that. It's happened to him, it's happened to me in prep. Like
Oh,
I've seen him on his worst days. He's seen me on my worst. So like it's
And if you have good people around you, honestly, that's another thing for me. I have my girlfriend and my best friend always around me 24/7, and even my family. They're always like, yo, like if you want it, you gotta go do it. You know what I'm saying? We're not gonna sit there and provide everything for you and make sure this and that. It's never gonna come easy. My girlfriend's always like, hey, let's do your food, or like let's go to the gym, make sure you're at the gym. You know what I'm saying? Even when there's times I'm like, I'm tired, I don't want to move, she's always pushing me to do more. My best friend's always doing the same thing. He's always like, hey, like, yo, like you want this pro card, you wanted to hop into this sport. I mean, you got to work for it and nobody's going to give it to you. So having good people around you is also another good thing to have.
100%. You want to make sure that your circle, is supportive of your goals and ambitions, and not even just for like pro cards or anything, but just like support your hustle, right? So for me, it's I run a coaching business, and sometimes you have those people that just, oh, you work too much, or you work too hard, or do this, or take a day off, or take it. When you're constantly surrounded by that, I feel like it kind of just like pulls you down and pulls you away from what your goals are. So he makes an excellent point in saying that you want to really surround yourself by people that not necessarily have the same vision as you. Like you don't have to surround yourself by bodybuilders, but surround yourself by people who are supportive in whatever it is that you want to do, right? These are people that are working on their own hustle. So like your best friend, you're talking about the guy that does the music, right? So like he probably grinds all kind on whatever he's passionate about. And then you see that and you kind of live off that. You're like, shit, you know what? Like he's doing it. So like I gotta do it. And vice versa, I'm sure there's days where he doesn't want to do what he's got to do. And he sees you grinding on the Stairmaster. He's like, fuck, okay, maybe I should do, you know, what I
Right.
gotta do. And this holds true in any relationships. Like the number of times I woke up and I told my wife, I'm like, hey, listen, like I ain't doing cardio today. And she's like, no, no, you got to do that. You got to do that 50 minutes, like you hold each other accountable, and that's what's important. But, at the end of the day, it really comes down to you. And like Jeremiah said, you have to constantly remind yourself how bad you want this, how important your goals are to you. And even on the days where you just don't want to, man, just get up and just get it done. And eventually, when you get to where you want to be, you'll be thankful that you had hard days that you push through, because then when you actually have a hard day and you realize how easy it is to just get through it because you've been through so much worse, everything just becomes easier.
Also, like I would also say like just a personal experience so people could understand. Like I broke my leg last year, which is why I had taken off a year from the gym. I could have quit bodybuilding in general, but I didn't. I decided, hey, listen, just because I have a broken leg, I was still at the gym and I would listen, I would text Jesse and be like, hey, like I'm still at the gym, like I can't hit legs, but I'm still here because I wanted it so bad. That's exactly where you got to think. Like it doesn't matter if you're injured, if you're sick and you're bed rest, that's a whole other story. But if you could still walk, move, breathe, and all the other things, you're fine to do anything in life. You
Yep.
just got to do that mental barrier. That's all I got to say. Mental barrier. You got to fight through it.
Yeah. And I was just having a conversation with a client that I just re-signed yesterday about this exact topic. And I've worked with a lot of people where the second there's any kind of minor inconvenience that happens in their life, oh, I got to stop coaching. I can't. I can't. My kid's sick. I can't, I can't pay you for coaching this month. I got to take care of this. There will always be something in life that will kind of try to take you away from the path you're on. Always, always. There's never a place in time where everything is just linear, everything is just good, everything is just straight. Life is always constantly challenging you with something. And it's gonna have to be up to you to be like, I will not let this get in the way. Yeah, you're gonna have to work a little bit harder. You're gonna have to adjust certain things, but it is what it is. This is what separates the people who want it from the people who don't, right? And like, we were training together. He was having a pain in his leg. We're like, yo, go get that shit checked out. He had to, he was in a boot for God knows how long. He was still showing up to the gym. We were still training together. We were still doing what he had to do. He never used it as an excuse to be like, hey, coach, you know what? Like, I can't do this. Like, it's not for me right now. No, he persevered through, the adversities that life threw at him. And the same way life will continue to throw shit at the both of us. It's inevitable. We just got to take it and just find a way to work around it. And it is what it is. And, I know a lot of people are very less resistant to fighting through it. And, we're both resilient people. And when we're faced with something, we're just like, fuck it. Like, we're not going to let it beat us down. And I think a lot of people just need to develop that grit. And whenever something hard comes, instead of dropping something that you're doing to transform yourself, and another thing I want to point out is the most of the people that are like, "Oh, I need to put the coaching on pause," are the ones that need it the most, right? They're the ones that need it the most, but they're also the ones to run out the door the fastest the second something comes up, right? So, you guys need a little bit more grit. You need a little bit more discipline. And I hope this this video really helps you understand that uh you need to stop making excuses to run out the door, right? If it's financial, I understand. I take care of my guys. Like everybody who works with me knows if something comes up, I take care of you. But stop making excuses to run out the door every time something's hard or life throws something at you or your kid gets sick or whatever. It's not an excuse to put your health on the sidelines, right? And again, I'm talking from the perspective of people that need this the most. Like we're talking people that need to lose 80 to 100 pounds or more. So I guess just some ending remarks. How would you explain your, working with me? How would you say your experience has been working with me? And do you feel like you would be referring me to other people? I guess, let's tell me
Um,
about how that was.
Honestly, from the start to where we are now, there was a lot of change, and not only just the body itself, but the mental strength itself for me. And I find that was like really big, a big part of my life because it's like I don't think I would have been who I am today if I didn't start what I started with you at that time. It just led me to being like a better person, more calm, just enjoying the quality time of just actually working out and learning different things and actually researching things. And even when people come and ask me, I'm like, hey, listen, I said, I've had people come and actually talk to me. They're like, hey, like, how's your coach? And I'm like, yo, my coach is probably the best coach you'll meet. And not that's I know most people that that's biased, is your coach. But I'm like, no, I'm like, listen, products, no products, whatever it is. I said, one, he'll always take care of you. Two, he will never push you to do way more than you can actually handle. If he feels like it's becoming too like large for you and it's really destroying you, he'll cut you down and be like, no. we're just cutting that offer. We're not doing that. Boom, boom, boom. We're gonna go from there. So I explained that to many, many people that have come to me and asked me, and I would refer you to anyone, even my family, if it came down to, I'm saying, like, oh, I'm like, listen, I'm like, I would never change my coach. And I remember the message I had sent you that one day. I'm like, hey, listen, like, I will always keep you as a coach, even when I get my pro card. Like that to me is big for me, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like you got me to where you know what I'm saying, not only to where I wanted to be today, because there's obviously still much more to go, but I'm just like, we're here, you know what I'm saying? We're doing it. We're always locked in. We're always focusing on certain, if there's small points that have to be fixed up, we're working towards it. We're always going. And I'm like, bro, I want a coach like that. I want a coach that's going to be very transparent with me. That's going to be open about certain things and just let me know, like, hey, like these are this. I don't want a coach who I'm going to be paying. He doesn't give a shit about me, doesn't check up, doesn't make sure I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want that. That to me is negative energy. Stay in your lane. I don't want to see you. Stay
Yeah,
away from me. So for you, it's more like, for me, it's like, it's not only just the coaching, it's more like family to me,
that's
So
it.
it's, and I don't really have that much around me. Like when it comes to this sport, like I wouldn't say like my family's not too supportive of it because again, there's a lot of politics involved and everything. And that to them is a little bit scary. But it's like, like still like, okay, like if I don't have them, at least I have my coach. You know what I'm saying? I can come to my coach, talk to my coach about anything. So for me, it's very, very big. And I would refer you to anybody in the entire world if it came down to it. So if there's no bad stuff and it's like, this is as honest I can be. Because you can ask anybody that would be around me. I say the same thing to anybody, whether it be my girlfriend, my best friend, anyone. I'm like, oh, I was the best coach, bro. I said, don't even worry about it. I said, see how I look now? I said, that's not achievable without him giving me the stuff that I need to do. Obviously, it takes my work, but it takes the coach to really be like, hey, well, like that's not looking the way I want it to look. Let's work on this. You know what I'm saying? My hamstrings you remember how long I couldn't fucking grow my hamstrings? My hamstrings were like, like shape.
Non-existent.
They're just it was just leg. So I'm like, oh man. And now I work my hamstrings off to like, you know what I'm saying, to like off the bone at this point. I'm like, hey, listen, like, so there's always pointing out the weak points, which is exactly what I feel like athletes have to really pay attention to is like, hey, like your coach is telling you something, focus on it, stop complaining about it, and just do the work. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And like you said, it's like when you work with someone, especially like a competitor, and you tend to develop more of an intimate relationship with these clients. They're not really clients anymore. They're almost like family, and I know me, leaving Canada and moving did kind of, impact a little bit on like to a degree the relationship that we had. We're getting, a lot closer as family. We're training a lot more. And what I have to say is, thank you for still sticking, with me through this transitional period where we had to go from doing a lot of stuff in person to a lot of things, online. One of obviously not saying any names, but one of the other competitors kind of had a little hiccup with that. Didn't really like that, so it is what it is. So I do have to say thank you for, still trusting me, still trusting the process. And I have to say again, just from what I've seen from the exterior, I think you've become a better athlete and a better, um, I don't like to say this word, a better client since I've been working with you from a distance as opposed to in person. You've been more on top of your check-ins, more on top of everything, communicate more. So, um, just for you guys to know that the whole coaching experience does still work, even if it's online, so long as both parties are compliant, right? Like he does what he needs to do. We book our calls, we check in, we do the posing, we talk, we catch up. We're always in constant communication with each other. Anyways, I'm not that coach that tells my clients you can only message me between this time and this time or talk to me in the group chat. Like open line of communication with all my guys. He FaceTimes me whenever he wants, doesn't even book the calls. Like I don't even care. If I'm available, I'm gonna pick up, right? It's not even just like exchange of money for a service at this point. It's like this is the relationship I want to have with the people who work with me and the people in my circle, and I will continue to do so for everybody. So
Yeah.
thank you for being an amazing client, but not just that, but an amazing representative for the brand and the team and setting that standard of what people should, strive to be, not just in terms of training or competition, but just in terms of someone who is passionate about reaching their goals. So thank you.
All right.